The silence in the night sky has unsettled me for as long as I can remember. You look up and see thousands of stars, and your intuition, you know, that instinctive feeling that helps you find your way in traffic or catch a thrown ball, tells you that somewhere, someone must also be looking at us. It feels impossible that we are alone. But feelings have a problem. They evolved not to understand the structure of the universe, but to help you survive on the African savannas. When you take human intuition and apply it to the scale of the universe, those intuitions do not merely fail, they shatter, they get crushed, and they disappear. Because the moment you truly look at the mathematics, the moment you see the plain physics of how time, energy, and distance really work, you find yourself facing a terrifying question. Why do we think our instincts have any authority over the laws of nature? Look, if you want to go somewhere on Earth, you go. If you want to go faster, you press the gas harder, but out there the rules change. The universe has built 5 specific cruel decrees, 5 absolute walls that prevent civilizations from meeting one another. I will be honest, these are not just obstacles to overcome. They are dead ends. When we finish today, you may feel smaller than ever before, but you will also understand exactly why no one is coming to save us and why no one ever will. Let's put science fiction aside. Strip away Hollywood dreams. Let's look at the universe as it truly is. The first decree that defeats us before we even stand up is distance. We chew the word space in our mouths like gum, but we cannot grasp what it truly means. We are biologically inadequate to comprehend the numbers we are about to discuss. Your brain is programmed to understand distances you can walk or drive. Maybe if you travel often, you can imagine the distance from London to Sydney. That is your limit. So let's push that limit. Let's climb the ladder of scale. Start with Earth. Rock 12,742 kilometers wide. For you, it is a world. For the universe, it is a speck of dust. You can circle it by plane in less than 2 days. A manageable distance. Now pull back. The sun is 150 million kilometers away. Light, the fastest messenger that exists, needs more than 8 minutes to cross that gap. If the sun vanished right now, you would continue enjoying a sunny afternoon for 8 minutes before the lights went out. This is still a gap you can measure with time. Now take the next step. The nearest star is not a distant galaxy. It is just our next-door neighbor. Proxima Centauri is 4 light years away. When your intuition hears the number 4, it thinks that is small. I can do 4 of anything, it says, but translate that into human terms. The fastest object humanity has ever built is the Parker Solar Probe. It screams through space at about 692,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to go from New York to Tokyo in under a minute. Unimaginable speed. If you boarded that probe and headed toward Proxima Centauri, how long would the trip take? A month? A year? No. It would take 6,600 years. That's it. The nearest star. If you had left Earth at the moment the Great Pyramids were completed, traveling at the fastest speed humanity has ever achieved, you would only now be arriving. And that is just our adjacent neighbor. Scale up once more. Our home galaxy, the Milky Way, is 100,000 light-years across. At the speed of the Parker Solar Probe, crossing it would take hundreds of millions of years, longer than the entire evolutionary history of mammals. You would evolve into another species before reaching halfway. All right, space is big. But you might think, so what? We just need to go faster. That brings us to the second decree and the cruelest one, the speed of light. Here's the trap. In everyday life, if you push a car, it speeds up. Push twice as hard, it speeds up twice as much. That is linear thinking. But as you approach the speed of light, physics stops being linear. It becomes asymptotic. As you accelerate an object, it gains kinetic energy. But as you near that cosmic speed limit, something strange happens. The energy you pump into the ship no longer makes it faster. It begins to effectively make it heavier. The more you push, the more the universe pushes back. To accelerate a spaceship with mass to 100% of the speed of light requires not just a lot of energy, it requires infinite energy. Not all the energy in the sun. Infinite. All the energy in the observable universe would not be enough to accelerate a grain of sand to light speed. You can burn a galaxy's worth of fuel and maybe reach 90%, maybe 99%, maybe 99.9999%, but you will never cross that line. So when people ask, why don't aliens just come here faster? The answer is simple, they cannot. It doesn't matter if they are a Type 3 civilization wearing black holes for breakfast. They live in the same universe. They bow to Einstein as well. That brings us to the third decree, energy, and the tyranny of the rocket equation. This is what truly kills the dream. It is not philosophy. It is the fuel tank. In 1903, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky wrote down the rocket equation. It may sound boring, but it is one of the most ruthless equations ever written. It says to move a ship, you need fuel. But fuel has mass, so you need more fuel to move the fuel that moves the ship. And that extra fuel also has mass, so you need even more fuel to move that extra fuel. It is an exponential curse. Try a concrete example. Suppose you want to send a ship to the nearest star within a human lifetime, say 40 years. You must accelerate to a serious fraction of light speed. And then, the part everyone forgets, you must stop when you get there. That means you must carry all the fuel required for breaking across the galaxy and accelerate it the entire way. If you do the math using our best chemical rockets, the amount of fuel required to send a single human to Proxima Centauri in a reasonable time exceeds the mass of the observable universe. Fine. Upgrade the technology. Use nuclear fusion. Even with fusion, the ship would have to be almost entirely fuel. To deliver a payload the size of a toaster, you would need a flying fuel tank the size of the Empire State Building. What about antimatter, the Holy Grail? 1 gram could level a city. But we produce antimatter atom by atom in particle accelerators. Producing nanograms costs billions of dollars. To fuel a starship, you would need to dedicate humanity's total energy production for millions of years just to fill 1 tank. And remember, the universe runs on cost-benefit analysis. Even if a civilization were advanced enough to build Dyson spheres and harvest a star's energy, they would still know mathematics. They would look at the energy cost of sending a robot or a bag of meat 10,000 light years to a small blue planet and realize it is a total waste of resources. Why burn a star's worth of energy to visit a planet that may not even be interesting when you can build a vast technological habitat in your own backyard? Advanced civilizations are not just powerful, they are efficient, and interstellar travel is the definition of inefficiency. But suppose they are stubborn, infinite money, no concern for efficiency. They launch the ship. Now they face the 4th decree, biology. We like to imagine cool people bouncing around in spacesuits, but the human body is a drama queen. It evolved for one very specific environment. 1G gravity, atmospheric pressure, a magnetic shield. Space is a radioactive hell. The moment you leave Earth's magnetic field, cosmic rays bombard you. These are not gentle beams of light. They are high-energy subatomic bullets, protons, and heavy ions moving near light speed. They do not just hit your skin. They pass through your body and shred your DNA like a shotgun blast in a library. On a Mars mission, cancer risk skyrockets. On a journey to another star, you would be dead before passing Pluto. You would need meters-thick shields of lead, water, or concrete. But remember the rocket equation. Shielding is heavy. Heavy means more fuel. More fuel means more mass. The exponential curse returns. And radiation is not the only problem. There is gravity. In zero gravity, your bones dissolve. Your heart shrinks. Your eyes deform. Astronauts return from 6 months on the International Space Station physically damaged. Imagine 600 years. Freeze them, you say, but freezing a living cell causes the water inside to crystallize. Those crystals act like tiny daggers, shredding cell membranes. We do not know how to freeze a human without turning them into mush. Build generation ships. Let people live and die aboard. Their grandchildren's grandchildren arrive. Have you met humans? Lock 500 people in a metal box for 500 years. Social structures collapse, language changes, genetic defects from inbreeding spiral out of control. By the time they arrive, they may not even remember why they left. Biology is Earth's software. It does not run on space's hardware. Maybe aliens are not biological. Maybe they are artificial intelligence. Robots do not get cancer, right? True. But silicon is also vulnerable to radiation. High-energy particles flip bits in computers and corrupt data. After thousands of years in deep space, entropy wins. Circuits fail, metal fatigues, micrometeoroids the size of dust grains hit with grenade force. Even machines have lifespans, and the galaxy is larger than any warranty. Now the 5th and final decree, information and time. Suppose a civilization overcomes distance, energy, and biology. They are out there. Why haven't they called? Because the universe has terrible phone service. We have been broadcasting radio for about 100 years. That means our presence has formed a bubble about 100 light-years wide around Earth. In a galaxy 100,000 light-years across, that bubble is microscopic. We are shouting inside a hurricane. For someone to hear us, they must be looking exactly at us, at exactly the right time, on exactly the right frequency. There are billions of stars, billions of frequencies. If aliens pointed a radio telescope at Earth in the year 1500, they would hear nothing. We had not invented radio yet. If they are 200 light-years away and listening today, they still hear nothing. Our signals have not reached them. This is the problem of asynchronous civilizations. Civilizations rise and fall. Humanity has been technological for perhaps 200 years. Maybe we last another 1,000, if we are lucky, 10,000. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. The probability that two civilizations exist at the same time, in the same neighborhood, at the same technological level, is nearly zero. It is like two fireflies blinking once in a dark forest, one on Tuesday, one on Friday. They never see each other. A billion years ago, someone may have lived near Proxima Centauri. They are gone. A billion years from now, someone may rise there. We will be gone. The tragedy of the universe is not that it is empty, but that guests arrive at the party at different times. Combine the 5 decrees, mind-breaking distance, the speed limit of physics, budget-shattering energy costs, body-destroying biology, and time that severs connection. And the conclusion is clear. Aliens are not coming. What about UFO videos, Navy footage? I love mysteries too. But apply the physics we just learned. We see objects accelerating from 0 to Mach 20 in a second. Do you know what that does to matter? G-forces in the thousands, electronics flatten, metal liquefies, biological pilots turn into red mist, and these craft show no sonic booms, no plasma trails. An object moving that fast in atmosphere would rip apart air molecules and light the sky like a second sun. You do not see that. You see a blurry gray smudge, which is more likely that a civilization mastered infinite energy, overturned inertia, canceled sonic booms, traveled 10,000 light years, and then decided to play hide-and-seek with a U.S. Navy jet and get caught on a grainy infrared camera, or that it is a camera artifact, a gimbal flare, a drone, or parallax? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Blurry videos are not evidence. If aliens were here with the energy capacity to cross the stars, their presence would not need grainy proof. The physics of their arrival would be undeniable. But I promise you this would not end in despair, and I stand by that. When you abandon the fantasy that aliens will come to save or destroy us, something deeper remains. We are forced to see the universe as it truly is, a place with rules, with structure. If the speed of light were not a limit, causality would break, effects could precede causes. The universe would be chaotic, history could not exist. The same rules that trap us here also allow stars to burn steadily, atoms to hold together, and life to evolve. The silence of the universe forces us to grow up. It makes us realize no one is coming to fix our climate, our wars, or our economies. We are alone. This fragile blue marble is the only lifeboat we have, and there is beauty in that isolation. If the universe were buzzing with Star Trek ships, Earth would just be a truck stop. But in a silent universe, Earth is a miracle. Life is a statistical impossibility that happened anyway. We are the universe waking up and looking at itself. We may never shake hands with an alien. We may never sit across a table and drink coffee together, but we share the same physics. The carbon in your right hand and the carbon in an alien's left tentacle were forged inside the same kinds of dying stars. We are connected not by spaceships, but by the fundamental laws of nature. So the next time you look at the night sky and feel that crushing silence, do not feel lonely. Feel proud. We are here. We understand. We are the seemingly impossible result of a 13.8 billion year cosmic lottery. And for now, that is enough. We must accept the decrees, distance, time, energy. But we do not have to accept ignorance. Keep looking up. Keep asking hard questions. The universe owes us no answers, and that makes finding them even sweeter. If you made it this far, you are part of the 1% who truly care about deep truths. If you want to join me on the next adventure, where we will tear reality apart to see how it works, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Let's keep exploring the silence together. See you in the next video.